Good evening, everyone. It's been about 6 months since I did one of these live streams, so hello, welcome back to another kind of just a nice chilled out live stream. We're going to be doing some kit bashing today. Yeah, so as the title says, it's just going to be like a prototyping session, and basically these are kind of things that I often do to work out concepts, work out what kind of things are going to work and what kind of things aren't going to work. So one of the ideas that I've had recently is based on the Valhalla Kill team, which I really enjoyed building. I still have about 5 torsos left for my Krieg, and I want to do something else with them. I'm not sure what, but because I only have 5 of these left, I don't want to waste them, so I'm going to be working out what parts I can use without actually using any of these Krieg parts, or at least not too many of these Krieg parts. And yeah, I thought I'd let you guys join in on it. So hello to the chat, everyone on Twitch, on YouTube, hello. As always, feel free to leave me your comments, questions, and if you have any ideas for anything that I'm working on at the moment in the live stream, feel free to leave them, and yeah, I will answer them. So yeah. So a few people have been leaving me suggestions on the Valhalla video, and I think a few people are also leaving me suggestions in the chat. And one of the things I wanted to do ever since I did my Talon Desert Raider was do something else. Now, the problem with doing one of those is with these uniforms is it doesn't really. You kind of think, oh, Talon, they kind of have this like Bedouin style, and I'm going to be using super high tech now. If anyone's played Battlefield 1, then in that you will know that there is the Ottoman Empire is one of the playable factions, at least in the multiplayer. And in that you can play as the sniper, and the sniper is equipped with a greatcoat, and they kind of have this kind of appearance. Let me find an image for it. I'm going to use my phone because we're going to be using super high tech stuff here. So let's, there you go. Can we get it on here? Can you just about see that? It's not very bright. Let's boost the brightness. There we go. You can just about see it there. I mean, if you have a look online, you can kind of see there's, if you just search for Ottoman Empire sniper, then you can find some great coats, and they're very similar to basically what these are wearing, because these are obviously styled around World War One. So I'm going to need a way of giving these a kind of Ottoman Empire and World War One kind of vibe. So, Mr. Arbiter, thank you very much for £5. Finally able to catch your live. I don't have any Kitbash suggestions, but I'm looking forward to seeing what you're making. Me too. I always am. Sometimes I go into these live streams, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, but we seem to come out with something in the end. So I'm going to put this to one side for the time being, because at the moment there's stuff like gold dust, at least until they get released separately. So I'm just going to put that to one side. And what we're going to work on instead is something a little bit more readily available. We're going to be working on some Cadian shock troops. And of course, these aren't going to be the same, but they're going to allow us to work on some concepts. So let's take a quick drink break and have a look to see what we've got in the comments. Any chance we could see some Blanchitsu Inquisitor and 28 conversion work? Yeah, probably. There is a lot of really nice stuff in Inquisitor 28 or Inc 28. But yeah, some Blanchitsu stuff. Owen Yates, Chemdog Flamethrower model would wear a great coat, maybe something like that. Yeah, so Savlar Chemdogs are definitely something which would work really well with the Krieg stuff. And part of the reason why I haven't done them is because I kind of feel like they're quite obvious to do. You literally just swap out some heads for, what are the Gene Stealer Cult Neophytes heads, or the ones, the Cadian kind of heads that you got. Let's get these out. So I hope, yeah. So I've got the, so these are the kind of heads I'm actually looking for, because these are heads that are actually going to be used for trying out the rapids, making sure everything's. I'm actually using my the camera that I film with now for the streams. I've got it hooked up to the computer, so I can actually. The autofocus and everything should work a lot nicer now. So I'm going to be using one of these heads, and I'm going to be trying out some green stuff, trying to do that kind of head wrap, and maybe try some of the stuff as well whilst we're at it. So we need, let's build up a torso first of all. Start with something nice and simple. So let's go for that one first. Do you think the new Deathcore Krieg will work for a Steel Legion army? A lot of people suggested that after I posted my Valhalla video, and yeah, I think they would. The only thing is the coats are a lot shorter on the, Steel Legion. They have kind of like somewhere in between Acadian and a Valhallan, so you would either need to modify the coat, or you would just need to kind of go ahead with it. But the gas masks are also slightly different. They have eyes, visible eyes. A lot of the models do, the original ones. But I mean, if you go for something yourself, then something of your own style rather than following religiously to the old models, then that's fine. You can do what you want. So one of the things I actually really liked about the Deathcore of Krieg kit was just the amount of options that you got in there. It was really nice because the thing is, with a lot of these newer kits, you find in a lot of monopose stuff, there's not really many options in there. And just the sheer amount of grenades, pouches, which everyone knows that I love. Weapon options, you had all the kind of the melter guns. I feel like this is a way of kind of adding a little bit of extra detail to the Cadian sprue just to keep it up to date, but it's still not enough, not compared to the Deathcore of Krieg. We need backpacks, we need things like different weapon options and just stuff that, like the demolition guy was really cool. There's like two little bits, there's quite a few items for representing medics and things like that. So, I mean, I don't know why I'm spending so much time doing this. Cleaning, because this is just a prototype after all. We're just going to do a quick one just because I hate mold lines. So I've been neglecting the chat. Let's have a look at it again. Where are the Slaneshi or confused Tyranid conversions? Yeah, I do kind of, when it comes to Xenos stuff, I do neglect it. And I was hoping to do some more stuff when Kill Team came out, but the new, anyone who's kind of been looking at the Kill Team Compendium stuff will already be aware, but the Kill Team Compendium is massively reduced the amount of options that we can get in kill teams. There's still a lot of options to kitbash and convert and things like that. You can just make a theme, but because we've lost the specialists, at least for the time being, for most factions apart from the Imperial Guard and the Orcs, there's not really much that we can do. But never say never. I would like to do some Eldar at some point just to give them some more updated models. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Have you ever considered converting a kill team from some of the Blood Bowl teams? I'm painting the human nobility at the moment and feels right for some sick conversions. Yes, there are some. I mean, people have done some really nice conversions using those models. I've going back to what I was just saying about an Eldar. I think some of the Alf teams in those would actually be really nice. Because they kind of have that Eldar appearance, but with a little trimming and a few extra components, maybe some head swaps, you can actually do something really nice. So yeah, there's an option there, maybe some Eldar X-Dice, something like that. What else have we got? I do really like this idea of upgrade sprues for the guard regiments. Hopefully you go down the route of the old Black Templars and make 3 sprue kit or convert your standard Guardy Boys into Parade. Yeah, definitely. I think they need to do that just to fill in the stopgap that a lot of the third-party companies are doing. You can get a lot of third-party bits from Anvil Industries. You can 3D print them, and I just feel like if Games Workshop just made a sprue like that, which had some Praetorian heads in there, maybe some different arms, maybe a couple of different torsos, just to add a little bit more kind of flavour to those units. You can use this Cadian sprue. The Cadian sprue is not too bad. It's kind of old now. It's not as good compared to the Deathcore of Krieg, but it's not bad. And if you just want something nice and simple that you can paint fairly easily and you can build fairly easily, but you just want a little bit of extra conversion potential in there, then I don't see why it's so hard just to make a bunch of these sprues. That's just my opinion. Okay, so we're going to choose a head. I'm kind of reluctant to use one of these for this, just because the heads are ideal, but I haven't got all that many. I might just use the sergeant head. Where is it? Is this head much bigger, actually? Yeah, you can see they've tried to adjust the scale slightly there between the sergeant and the regular heads. I think that's definitely... Is that different? Not too different. Let's use the sergeant head, just because I have so many of these, and if I wreck it, then I can always do more. Just quickly get rid of that. So the first thing we're going to do, modifying, is we're going to trim down the shape of the head. And the reason for that is we want to create more of room for our green stuff, because the green stuff isn't as thin as fabric, so we need to compensate for that. We need to make sure that the fabric can kind of go into the head. So the head's going to be smaller than it intends. It's kind of like what I did with the Cadian helmets for the Vostrians. I basically removed a lot more of the helmet than I need to, just to kind of, so that I could fill it out with green stuff instead. Guy Incognito, thank you very much. Absolutely love your stuff. The inspiration you give the community is great. Also, just wanted to hear you say big chunkers for the chat. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's always nice when people say that I've kind of inspired them, because I this is exactly why I do this thing. I want people to give kit bashing a try. I want people to not feel too scared. I mean, most people probably have quite a big bits box of stuff, and if you just kind of try out a few different head swaps and mix and match a few things, and then you can kind of go from there and start taking parts from other kits and doing modifications like this. It's always good. Common Astartes, thank you very much to you. In one of your streams, you were making a model based on a homebrew Space Wolf chapter, and I can't help make the lore for them. How did the finished model turn out? I'm not sure where the model went for that. I can't remember. Is the answer to that one. I think I know where it is. I think it's just not in arm's reach. The trouble is I end up with a lot of models. So some models I actually keep on my desk, keep around me, and other models just end up in the Oblivion drawer, never to be retrieved again. So yeah, some models do, and also some models as well. I mean, let's just take. Speaking of prototypes, this is some of the prototype work that I've done before. Sometimes I get to a stage where I want to paint something to see how it all comes together, and I wasn't really happy with these. So these were some. Hopefully that focuses in nicely. Yeah, these were some kind of feudal guard inspired Skitarii, and I was actually going to do these for a kill team, and I think I might still kind of go down that avenue. But this was basically just a bit of green stuff. I removed the backpack. There wasn't really anything too difficult there. This is a bill hook taken from some of the Empire State Troopers, and this is a regular Vanguard model, but I added a bit of a State Trooper crossbow to that as well, just to his radium carbine. And I also added a little bit of green stuff around here to make it look more like a kind of, I think it's a kettle helm, or is it no? Kind of a salad helm, I think it is. I can't remember the official term. But yeah, this is kind of something which I would do. I wasn't ever intending to kind of have these models on a video. These are just, I like to get a very quick bit of paint on there, try out maybe a few paint techniques whilst I'm at it, just see how things work. So there's quite a lot of that kind of thing that goes on the channel that you don't see, and maybe I should do a video at some point. The failed experiments. Shouldn't you be working on the Kernoth Hunters? I actually have. I'll grab them out here. I've got one of them. So this is one of the Kernoth Hunters that I've got. It's in the middle of being painted. So this is kind of very much similar kind of style to what I've gone for with the actual Tree Revenants. Green stuff stomach, putrid Blight King heads instead of the skulls, and I've got these kind of Nurglings and gribbly bits hanging out the back as well. But yeah. Very, very standard. So hopefully that'll be coming in a week or two, probably, hopefully. And then I've got a L'Oreal and a Glockkin on my desk as well. That's the next thing to be tackled after the Kurnoth Hunters. So where were we? We were trimming this guy's head down. Yeah, so like I said, we want to kind of make the head look too small. We want it to look smaller than it actually should be, because the trouble is, as soon as you start adding green stuff on there, you want the green stuff to be thick enough so you can add in creases and folds and things like that, but if you have the green stuff too thin, then you don't have that option. So it's kind of playing a balancing act between making sure that the head itself looks in scale and you still have enough green stuff in order to work with it. So I do apologize if in these live streams you leave a comment and I do miss it. When you're working with knives, you kind of want to focus on exactly what it is you're doing, so you don't want to look up too much to read something. So I do apologize. So I'm keeping the face. The face is obviously important. We don't want to modify that. We want to keep it as is. We want to keep that nice and characterful, detailed. Detailed is the word I'm looking for. Anyway, let's have a drink and let's have a look at the comments. Okay, let's go back up a little bit. Bob Creature, I want to convert some Chaos Marauders into Conan the Barbarian style model to command a slave to Darkness army as a chief. Do you have any tips to start converting? So the Chaos Marauders, the old models are actually quite old now. I'd actually recommend maybe looking at some of the Warcry stuff instead. I think they're probably much better. I can't remember. A Tamed Beast, I think they are. Check those out. Some really nice models that you can use for that kind of style, that kind of whole Conan the Barbarian style. Tips start converting. If you want to do some green stuff, start with fur. Fur is the easiest thing to use with green stuff, so give that a go. Love watching your content. Since the Dark Angels Talon Master doesn't have an official model, have you thought about doing a video of your version? And what does it look like? The Talon Master, is that the guy on a bike? Someone fill me in on what that is, and I will answer it. On your process, do you tend to think stuff out, plan and go, or do you just get an idea and say F it and blast ahead? I fall into the last. It really depends. So I quite often will spend a lot of time looking on things like Google, Pinterest, Instagram to kind of get ideas. I usually have like a kind of a core idea that I want to do, and then I want to build it out from there. Then that's the main thing that I do. Sometimes it is a case of planning everything meticulously, getting exactly the parts that I know I need for that conversion. Sometimes it's just a case of just kind of winging it, and I think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Would absolutely love to see your take on the Infernal Master. I don't have an idea of what that is, so again, fill me in and I will let you know. Nihilus, on another note, what's your tips for your own take on something? I'm pretty uninspired at the moment and thought that some ideas brainstorming or blend or overdone. Did you ask me that question earlier? Oh, this chat's going too fast. Where's your original question, Nihilus? I can't find it. I want to see a different take on Chaos Space Marines or Xenos. Like instead of the normal spikes, maybe like a soul entrapped and power armor, like Nighthorns or Tau. Tau that are more primitive. Okay. Yeah, so I would like to do some Chaos Space Marine stuff, and again, I was hoping to do so much stuff with Kill Team 2.0, but unfortunately the thing is a bit not very good. So yeah, maybe I'll do some in the future, but I still have some ideas, so don't worry. Thunder Warriors, yes, I do need to get those done at some point. I just need a good idea. Those Vampire Coast conversions were that good. I've bashed over them a few times. I have painted a couple of white Scar models to start, and I'm craving a flying jet bike to properly kitbash instead of the standard bikes. Thoughts on kitbashing a mid-fight jet bike? I'd say probably I can't remember what they're called, the Custodes flying bike's probably the good place to start. You can maybe swap out the front. There's some 3D printed parts that I've actually seen, which look quite nice. That you can stick in where the wheels are, and they make like little hover things. It looks pretty cool. Or you could take the plates, the impulsor plates off one of the tanks, and you can probably stick those in place, and they look quite good as well for like hover bikes. A video about unfinished, failed, and experimental models sounds like fun. Yeah, there's been quite a few over the years. I think most of them I do keep. Sometimes they get chopped up and used elsewhere, just so I'm not wasting the parts. But yeah, I do have a few things. Not everything you see on this channel works first time. Sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, this is another kind of prototype that I had. So this is something that's kind of like still a little bit of a work in progress, but I haven't really come back to it. So it's basically a Stormcast, and I've replaced the scale mail with some just green stuff tab on it. I've nearly finished it around the back, but I had to kind of carry on. But actually, one of the things that I found was if you take a Sisters of Battle head and you chop out the eyes and you fill it with green stuff and you add just a kind of an eye slit like that, and you chop out the little vent things at the sides, then if you put it in one of these, it actually looks really nicely as like a Sellet helm. You can see there. So yeah, that was like another thing that I had an idea, but then I was like, oh no, I need to do a kill team now. So a lot of this stuff kind of gets looked at and then put to the wayside. So yeah, that's another option for a future video. So yeah, a lot of these things I just kind of play around with and see how they work. Ben Ives in the bath again. It's been 6 months and he's still always having a bath at this time of night. I think a video series, yeah, I've done that one. Which models are these? These are just Cadians, and we are working to make them a little bit talented, just to kind of practice on working on some head conversions on these. We can do a bit of green stuff in it a little bit. I like all your work and videos. Please make more Skaven conversions. Yeah, I do like Skaven. I think someone mentioned earlier some rat ogres, but yeah, the rat ogres are very dated, and I think there's probably a lot of options. I think Storm Fiends are probably the most obvious one, but I think there's a lot of other ideas that you can kind of take from the kind of the crypt ghouls, and not crypt ghouls, crypt flayers for Flesh Eater Quartz. Probably a good start. So this is the thing, I don't actually know how far to go with this. I'm going to go a little bit further than I need to, because at the end of the day I can always fill it back in again with some green stuff. Let's chop this down even further. I mean, this head will look ridiculous when I finish doing this, but sometimes you kind of just need the face, so the rest of it doesn't really matter. And it kind of reminds me of the robots from AI, the film. Just has a face, and all the rest of it's just mechanics. Okay, there we go. I should have just done this in the first place. So you can see in the front it looks okay, but on the back he's kind of severely missing parts of his brain. And I'm going to attach this to the model. So I've kept the ball and socket joint in place. I'm going to keep that there just so we can glue that into place. And do. We can keep that. So let's clear this area, and it's actually let's get a clean surface to work on. Right, so we're going to use some green stuff. Same principle as always. Cut out the yellow and the blue, and this is something I always mention using Vaseline, but I don't think I ever show it. So I always make sure that I use plenty of Vaseline on my knife, first of all, and then it just stops it from sticking as much, and you can see that it goes through quite nicely. I'm going to remove that bit. A few people ask why I removed that. That's basically because it's not always going to be the case, but quite often you'll find that because these two sections have been touching, they'll get small areas along here which have already cured. And so if you find that when you're mixing green stuff it goes lumpy, that's quite often the reason why, because there's like a little bit of pre-cured green stuff in there. So just cut out the middle section, and then I've cut out far too much green stuff than I needed there, but anyway. Again, Vaseline on your fingers as you're working always helps. Cheesy Barbarian 021, what are you making? I am making a kind of prototype for Italian Desert Raider. I want to use the Deathcore Krieg models, but I don't want to ruin them, so I'm going to make some kind of test green stuff work and modifications to just Acadian, which I have tons of, and then that just means I'm not wasting anything. So I thought I'd do this on a live stream and I can finally talk to everyone as well. Any ideas for Alpha Legion kit bashes, and have you ever considered a more accurately sized Tyberos, the Red Wake? Now I always get requests for Tyberos, and I can see why. He's a very kind of interesting, charismatic character. The Corcaridans in general are, but I don't know why. I've never really kind of had a good idea for him. There's always kind of been things. I know he's a big guy. He wears Terminator armor. The obvious thing is to just use Torgaradon, which is what everyone else uses. But yeah, I think maybe the reason why I've held off a little bit is because there's that leaked box set of Horus Heresy, and they've got some Terminators in there. I think they might be slightly bigger scaled. We don't know. We can see. But if they are, then I can maybe use that. Where is my place now? Greetings. Going to be starting a 10th Personality Force and would love to know what parts you would use. Awesome work and love your conversion videos. So this is a tricky one really, because there isn't really many great parts for 10th. And if you're going to be doing something like Catachans are probably, or Catachans, I always get told that I pronounce that wrong. Catachans. And they're good, but the models are very old, so they're not great to use in that regards. But there are some really good third-party stuff. I think Victoria Miniatures does some really nice third-party stuff, so you could maybe use Cadians and just swap out the arms for some kind of like sleeveless arms. That might be an option. You can buy some resin capes that work with these as well. Okay, so mix up my green stuff. I'm just going to take a small amount, and I'm going to start building out the head again. So I kind of call this phase sketching, and what I do is I just take small lumps of the green stuff and I just basically build out the rough shape of the head just using the small lumps. I'm not interested in everything being perfectly smooth or anything. I'm just trying to get the green stuff where it needs to be. It kind of looks like you have a strange hairstyle there. And by doing that, it just means that I know exactly that I'm not putting too much on the model, because it's quite difficult to take it off after you've been smoothing it around and not having any problems. So we're kind of making this up as we go along here. It just looks like he's got a terrible hairdo at the moment. Let's put a little bit more across the side here, like that. And I'm going to build it up a little bit more on top as well. Gruff Bevan, do you have any tips for sculpting scales? Yes, and I think it was if you search on my YouTube, there's a Primus Alpha Legion video where I basically used a tool, which is it's normally like a scale tool, but I used it to make some scales, so you can basically use that as quite a good guide to make some scale, especially for like Alpha Legion, things like that. I'm just looking at this guy's face, it just looks ridiculous. Let's maybe move the camera a little bit more, just so you guys can see more closely what I'm working on. Okay. There we go. So I want the fabric to kind of wrap around underneath as well. So we're going to need to add a little bit more there. In the future, I probably would just do this in maybe 3 larger lumps. For something like this here, we just need something. He's kind of looking at a bit Nurgle infected at the moment. You can see where I'm going with this, can't you? Just trying to get that shape in first, just the rough shape, and then I'll worry about padding everything out afterwards and adding the details. I promise that this will come together nicely in the end. Whether I'm promising, I have no guarantees if this will work or not. I think it's not far off now. A little bit more across that forehead. But you can see what I mean about making sure that we actually cut down the head first, because actually make sure it's in shot. By making sure that the head is cut down, then we can add this to it, and we can change the shape of the head accordingly, and we get plenty of kind of green stuff to work with as well, to create that depth. Okay, let's see how we go with that. We can always add a little bit more. I just need my sculpting tool, which is, that's not the one I usually use. This one. Okay. Same as before, let's use some Vaseline just to make sure that this, make sure I'm in shot. I need to do this now. I need to, let's give myself an area. There we go. As long as I'm in front of the lettering, I can see what's going on. Perfect. So a little bit of Vaseline. We don't need too much, just kind of remove some on your hands. Also make sure your hands are nice and moisturized as well, so it's always good. And the trick is here now just to kind of smooth everything together, just really kind of smooth motions, just to blend that all into more of a homogeneous kind of lump. It still doesn't look great. It still looks like just a whole bunch of really badly singed hair. So I've got a feeling we're probably going to need a little bit more green stuff around this side here, but now that we're kind of blending everything in, we can see exactly where those are coming in. And because the green stuff's still quite, you know who he looks like at the moment? You know, the film Mystery Men, is it Hank Azera's character, the Blue Raj, I think it is. He's kind of looking like him at the moment. So this is a little bit too high at the back, so I'm gonna press this down. I'm gonna spread this down a little bit more just to even out some of those lumps. So some bigger lumps here would have been a little bit better, just to avoid this kind of this problem that I'm getting with this almost like scaling, but that's fine. So let's press this down a little bit more because it's looking a little bit too high on the top. So quite often when I'm working with green stuff, sometimes I will leave it for about half an hour before I use it, but for quite organic things and like cloth and skin and things like that, I always like to use it when it's as pliable as possible, just to make sure that it's as workable as it can be. I'm not fighting against it in order to get it to go where I want it to go. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a recess just around the chin here, just so we can kind of create that effect where there's like something underneath the jaw. Let's spread that out. So we've got the basic shape. Let me just grab my phone and I'm just going to have a quick reminder of what those Talon Desert Raider heads look like. I'll catch up on the chat as well. Just use Torgaradin to Kitbash Chapter Master for my Void Tridents. He is a really nice model. He's great for like really chunky models as well. Any suggestions for good skulls or skeletons? I'm considering kitbashing Graveguard because they feel too done by default. If you don't mind using third-party bits, then Wargames Atlantic do some really nice skeletons, and they're just kind of like really plain skeletons. So if you wanted to add extra armor and things like that to them, you can do. Okay, so this is basically what we're going for. We're going for that kind of style there. That's what we want. So we need to kind of push down this bit here just over. Let's push this down a little bit more over the eyes because we want that to be covering the forehead, and we can always add a little bit more green stuff if we need to. Okay, a little bit more green stuff. I'm just going to wrap that around the front there. Are you sculpting Patty or Salma? Oh yeah, it is kind of looking like a Simpson at the moment, isn't it? Okay, that's a bit better. That's kind of created a little bit more of that fabric. We're going to spread that across there. It's not looking as bad now. Just going to blend that into the top for the time being. It's kind of poking out a little bit too far forward, so let's make sure we push that back. Quite happy with this bit at the bottom though. This is working out quite nicely. Just tucking it in underneath there as well, just because that's kind of how it would appear. It would appear a bit more tucked in. The only thing is, he kind of looks like he's wearing a like a dinosaur head on his. just put some eyes on there, and I think it's the green colorings that isn't helping with that. So I've got the building of kind of the start of that. So let's carry on with. Let's see what we've got here. Just get this picture back up. We kind of have a wrap that goes around the top there, and there's a little bit in the middle which kind of bulges out. So let's start with the bulge first. I'm just going to use the side of the blade of the sculpting tool here just to add a slight depression. That's going to create some definition between this piece here and this piece just below it. So let's spin that round all the way around to the back and then around to the side. So I'm just going to spread this down a little bit more because it's just a little bit too bulky for the time being. Oh dear, I really do hope this comes out nicely. I mean, this is the point of doing the prototypes. It's just to avoid any strange looking oh no, we can salvage it, I promise. So it's pressed in a little bit too much there, so I think I need to add a bit of green stuff to this side just to bulk this bit up a bit. Okay, it's not looking too bad. It's getting there. Let's have a look. Right hammer, yes, I do. I mean, I did used to do them a lot more regularly, but I haven't got the time as much to do these anymore. And the last one I did was February, so yeah, very much not a regular thing. But yeah, hoping to do a few more again. At least it's just the kind of thing where we're just having, I'm just kind of sitting here doing some of the work that I would normally do, and I might as well just set up a live stream, speak to you guys, answer some of your questions, and you can see how the sausage is made. Okay, it's looking a little bit better. Now we've got a bit more of a defined kind of edge on that side. So I'm tempted to do the same thing on the other side as well. Okay. Where were we? Are these talent? Yes, they are. They're basically, I'm working on something which is going to be a modification to the Deathcore Krieg, using this kind of Talon Desert Raider style. I suppose they will be Talon Desert Raiders, but not in their traditional appearance. Something a little bit different. As someone mentioned, it's kind of like based on the Ottomans from World War I, their great coats. The thing is as well, this kind of thing, sometimes it doesn't look right until it's been painted, because you've got such a different colour against the grey plastic, it doesn't always look right. And then once everything's been primed, it just looks better, and then as soon as you add a bit of colour and you start bringing out the detailing, then it starts to look a lot different as well. So one of the things I find is whenever you're doing kit bashes, sometimes it won't work until you put paint on it. And then as soon as you put paint on it, it'll just come together and it'll look good then. I mean, not always. Sometimes stuff looks terrible, but I'd say quite often, if it's looking bad, it's just because it's not been painted. As soon as you put a bit of paint on there, it looks a lot better. How's that looking? Is that bright enough? I think it's kind of blocking its own light here. Let's look at the comments. Duncan McIntyre. I loved your Death God Possessed conversion video, and in the comments you said you were thinking of doing more Possessed for the other traitor legions. Have you thought about returning to that idea? Yes, I have. I did. This is actually another example of something that I mentioned earlier about prototyping. I actually did a full prototype for a Khorne Possessed, and I just wasn't happy with the results, so I kind of got stuck there. So, yeah, maybe in the future, maybe I'll show that off as well in some video. The absolute worst army kitbash idea I could think of are Talon Desert Raiders who are squats but painted converted as Umplump. Yeah, I think you could probably use like halflings, the halfling Blood Bowl team for that. Would actually be really nice. It's a good idea. Eric Nelson, you mentioned the Ottoman Sniper as an inspiration. The Great War channel on YouTube has an entire episode. Yes, that is a fantastic channel, and anyone who hasn't watched it, I would highly recommend it, but I do need to go back and watch that video. I think I saw it when it first got released, but yeah. Can you do a video about true scaling Space Marines to the size of Primaris with only green stuff? Interesting. Could work. Yeah, I think that could work. You could extend some of the legs, maybe adjust the pose a little bit. Yeah. Does anyone know how to get the Krieg kit? I don't know where to find it. The only place at the moment is in Kill Team Octarius, or you can buy it for like 60 quid on eBay. It's just ridiculous. Which is exactly why I'm doing my prototyping on Acadian as opposed to Deathcore Krieg. New Dino Riding Guardsman. Nice idea. Like the idea. The Zurban. I ordered some plain skull heads off eBay. I want to replace the face on a Space Marine helmet to make a chaplain with it. How do you go about that without using green stuff? So the first thing you need to do is to completely cut away the faceplate of a regular Space Marine, and then, so that's going to be the hardest part, and you probably have to shave it back as well, and then you would cut up the face off a skeleton, and you would kind of need to just kind of insert it into that section and adjust each one as you go forward. So yeah, just plenty of comparing and adjusting. So yeah, that's how I'd do that. I was thinking in general about a sprue glue when joining the face of the helmet. Yeah, I think you would probably need to have some cutting first, just to make it look more like part of the actual head. Do you think rolling a very long thin piece and wrapping it would work better? So yes, that does work. I have done that before, but the only trouble is, again, you end up spreading it out anyway and losing those wrappings. So I feel like, well, if I just build it up like this, I can control exactly how much goes where, and I can build it. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing it that way as well. Have you thought about using Skaven bits for gene stealer cults? Like, the closer they are to pure strain, the more rat-like they get. Yeah, so it's basically very similar to my 40k Skaven video. But yeah, you could kind of go with neophytes. You could have them so they've got slightly ratty features, and then the acolytes and the pure strains get more and more ratty. Yeah, that could be a nice idea. Christian Ruiz Diaz. Hi, what are you kitbashing today? So at the moment I'm doing some prototyping for some Talon Desert Raider ideas that I want, but I'm just making sure that I can actually get this head wrap working on a model first. Currently converting some Uruk brutes into Beast Snagger knobs. Nice idea. I do like those models. I have about 1,000 points of Iron Jaws, and I would like to do some more in the future. Got any good ideas for Crisis Battlesuit conversions? I have thought about these before, but the trouble is all I end up doing is trying to recreate Titanfall battlesuits. That's literally it. So there might be some really good ideas out there we could take on, but maybe some... I quite like that more militaristic idea. So Raptors plus Tower battlesuits equals Titanfall mechs. Odd question, but do you think an Eldar-styled Space Marine would be possible? I guess there's just Wraithguard, kind of similar style. But yeah, I think it's... I don't know if there's much in the lore about it. Obviously, you can get away with the kind of the Tau stuff, which is obviously what I did on a previous stream. The Guron Vesa or something like that. So the Tau-themed Space Marines. That works quite well because in the lore you can say, well, Tau have recreated Space Marine armor for their human auxiliaries. So possibly. Did an Ogre and crap on his head? Yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like that. An Ogre is maybe eating a bit too much kale or something. The Lost Soul. I love your Necrofex Colossus build and the Rotten Leviathan. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you very much. I did really enjoy building those. Some of my favourite builds, and I will be doing some more big builds very soon. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. Would you ever do something like an Attilian conversion? Maybe not necessarily even Rough Riders, some Attilian infantry. That's a nice idea. I haven't actually thought of doing something Attilian but infantry based. But yeah, that could some kind of like Mongolian inspired thing. Nice. Nox things in. How do you clean the Vaseline off after you finish working with it? Well, when it's dry, there's pretty much not much to do. So you can see here how this is dry. So I'll demonstrate on this. Most of the time, I just do that. I just wipe my finger on it, and that's it. You don't really need to do anything. Sometimes, if I want to be doubly sure, I'll use something like a bit of kitchen towel, and that's it. That is literally it. You don't need to use any spirits. You don't need to use any special cleaners. Just wait for it to cure, and then you can wipe it off. And you have no problems with the painting then. So yeah, very easy to use. Okay, so back to this. So it's starting to firm up a little bit, which means we can start getting a little bit more pressure in these adjustments now. And we're not going to have as much movement, so it gives us a little bit more... It allows us to get some sharper folds in the cloth then than what we would have been able to before. So I think it's not looking too bad at the moment. Like I said, I'm not looking to get it perfect. I'm looking to use this as a learning experience. So I've gone a little bit too deep there, so I'm just going to spread that back out a bit more. I think I need to fill this out a little bit, the side. It's a little bit, this side isn't too bad, but this side needs a little bit of something, and we need to add some folds. So let's have a look at the reference photo again. So, it's not perfect. It's kind of wrapped around like that. There's a little bit dangling down here, and the bit around the middle. So let's see if there's any other pictures. There we go. So same kind of thing again here. It's mainly like a single sheet down the side, wrapped around on the top, and there's a little bit of excess down at the bottom. The original models, yep, same kind of thing, wrapped around the top. Some of them are on the face. Oh look, it's my video. It's just popped up on YouTube. Yeah, I think that's kind of the way we're going to go here. Okay. It's probably looking a bit too big though. I still feel like it's looking too big. Let's get this knife. We're going to use plenty of green stuff. Vaseline on this so it doesn't stick to the green stuff. I'm going to cut through. Just going to cut a little bit off the top. Okay. Again, silence descends as soon as I start to concentrate on my knife. Okay, that's better. That's a little bit better. It's not quite as high as it was before. But you can see there how we've gone down to the plastic. You can just about see there. So we kind of need to spread this over a little bit just so we're not seeing that little bit of bump in the plastic. But this is exactly why it's important to cut down the size of the head first and then add the green stuff afterwards. Otherwise you get this really kind of unfortunately sized head. Just trying to get that seam back in around the back here, like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it so that the cloth is kind of wrapped around and it comes around here and it comes around the back and then it kind of starts to get tucked up into the top there. So we need to have another seam just around about here. And that'll make it look more like a wrap than just kind of like a balaclava. So again, it's starting to look a little bit too big at the back. I think I've maybe built it up too much here and not enough at the front, so let's trim that back again. Trim that away a little bit. So what I've learned here is basically just not to use quite as much green stuff. I used a little bit too much and I'm having to cut it back down again. This is like one of the hardest things I've done with green stuff for ages. The actual Ashankas that I did for the Vahans are really easy compared to this. It's kind of why I've avoided doing this until now. I think I need to want to get a system down. I think that'll work. I'm thinking a couple of blobs at the side, one blob underneath and then wrapping something around the top is going to give me the easiest way of getting these proportions right quickly. Okay, I think we're slowly getting there. Really happy with the bit under the chin. That's fine. That's looking okay. It's just this little bit around the head. It's just a little bit trickier to do. So let's lift that up a little bit. Where were we on the comments? You should make a Tyranids kill team. So this is the thing about Tyranids. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they get like their own kill team specialist kind of release. That'd be interesting to do, but at the moment they're fairly basic. But yeah, maybe in the future. Pete, how do you get so talented at using green stuff? Honestly, I haven't really used green stuff all that much until about a year ago. And the more I use it, the more confident I feel with it, the more I understand how it works and how you kind of move it around. So yeah, just practice, just keep at it. It is very difficult at first, but yeah, just keep trying to do smooth bits like filling gaps, maybe try some fur, and then you can kind of just progress from there. How much of a back supply of green stuff do you have at any given moment? So I've got this much, which is kind of just what I keep in the desk. This filled the whole thing not that long ago, and I have another, maybe about 2 of those to hand. Is there any model you would never convert? I don't know, because I've not come. If there is, I've not come across it yet. But yeah, I think every model can be converted in some way. Some things are just a lot harder to do than others. But yeah, maybe eventually I'll find something. Love your content. Currently kit bashing some squats from Deathfield Space Wars. Yeah, the Einherjar. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, it's a really nice kit, that one is. There's some really nice stuff coming from War Games Atlantic. They have some really nice, I think they're called cannon fodder. They're like sci-fi units that you can just use as like generic infantry, so that'd be really nice to do some conversions with. Ever thought of making something like a Reaper Leviathan from Subnautica as a greater demon, or some other model perhaps for the Ideneth Deacon? That would be quite nice. Some kind of nautical themed, maybe like a Lovecraftian style creature. That'd be pretty cool. Once you finish with the prototype, what do you do with it? Do you put them with the group intended to have an army worth of prototypes? Yeah, so as I've said, I've got a few prototypes I have hanging around. This is a prototype that I had from years ago. This is even before I started doing YouTube. It's kind of like a Space Wolf tech priest kind of thing. Iron Father, I think it is. So sometimes I just have them hanging around, and I use them just to say, okay, how did that work? Did this, and just use them as comparisons for future. How do you feel about the new kill team rules essentially getting rid of mixed unit kill teams? I'm a little bit sad because my Raptor kill team is no longer usable. My Grey Knight kill team is still legal, which is fine, but I think it has reduced. I can understand why they've done it from a competitive scene, but from the hobby scene, it's massively kind of stunted what we can do, which is a shame, but we'll find ways around it. Gabuski, hi, hello. I am doing fine. I hope you're doing well too. A Wolf Parable as well. A couple of familiar names popping up in the chat today. I've got Ben Ives as well. X Amazing. I think I've seen you on a stream before. There's quite a few of you I've seen here and there. can you do a quick video on easily painting marble effect on Space Marine shoulder pads specifically for a crappy painter like myself? I actually did do a marble painting one. Yeah, and I'm a bit offended, Ben, that you didn't know that I'd already done a marble painting tutorial. I can't remember. I think it's just literally called how to paint marble. It's on like a stone head, but you can probably scale it down for marble effects as well. But yeah. How about a conversion from a Dragon Ogre into a Zoke kill team? That actually worked really nice. I think it might be a bit too big though. I think Dragon Ogre is a little bit too big. You can maybe do something with the cold ones, the Dark Elves from Age of Sigmar. You can maybe do that. Hi Gorg, thank you very much. Mario Bunbury, I am working on, at the moment I'm just talking, I'm just having a break because I'm prototyping out some kind of Talon Desert Raider, just so that I can make the mistakes on this model and not on the 5 remaining Krieg kill team members that I have. My impression was that Kill Team was never supposed to be competitive. The narrative you made for your unique minis was half fun. I think so, yeah. I think Kill Team... I used to play Kill Team when it was basically just kind of rules in White Dwarf. It didn't have its own kind of supplements or anything like that. You just used regular 40k rules. You just had smaller units. They could act independently. And you could have like a few specialists within the team. And we used to play that a little bit. And that very much was narrative based. You had one unit would be controlling the kill team, another unit would be controlling like sentries and things like that, which was pretty cool. And that's how I used to play Kill Team, and I haven't played it since the rules kind of officially came out for it. But yeah, I think there is quite a big competitive scene for Kill Team as far as I'm aware. Like I said, I'm not massively into the gaming side of it. So I think what they've tried to do is try to make it easier to support that game, and most likely to be able to release more supplements, which is the cynical side of me talking there. Which is okay in a way, because it means that if we get more units like... I think what we're going to be seeing is how we have had Commandos and Veteran Guardsmen, and they've had kits released for them. We'll probably see some sort of Specialist Space Marine unit being released, and Specialist Chaos Space Marine unit, which will have all the options in there that you can use in a kill team, and it'll be both for 40k and kill team, but it'll see its release first in kill team. That's what I'm imagining will happen anyway, but we'll see. I spent a long time on this. I was hoping to do a bit more than just sculpting green stuff, like this kind of green stuff kind of head wrap. But I think it's kind of mostly there. It needs tidying up. It needs to be a bit more... I think there's maybe a bit too much going on there at the moment. I think it just looks... I need maybe a little bit less green stuff next time. And to apply it a little bit more strategically as well, because I feel like I applied it a bit too haphazardly here. But I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it's not bad for a first try. I'll do this again and it'll probably come out better. So yeah, it's not bad. Not bad so far. So I think that would work quite nicely for... if I used it on one of the Krieg torsos. So my intention would be probably to remove one of the gas mask filters again, same as what I did with the Krieg, and then using most likely the Cadian heads, at least a couple of these, glue those on, and then apply the scarves. This head is also slightly bigger as well, so I reckon if you use one of these kind of newer heads, that probably would work better. In terms of what other modifications there, one of the things that someone suggested in the comments, and I can't remember who it was, so I apologise if you're in the live stream, but it was basically just to add kind of like a sash around the waist, and that would also help to cover up what's left behind after I remove this. So let's try that out. I've done this before and it actually works quite nicely, so let's go for it. Alexander Lewis, Primus Touchant, please. Yeah, I do need to get around to him, and don't worry, I promise I will get to him eventually. I did kind of a little bit of a tease, but then I kind of changed my mind about what direction I was doing the videos in, so I was kind of doing a bait and switch there. Okay, let's do sashes. Where's that gone? There. Okay, so let's start off with a little bit of Vaseline. I'm just going to put that on the surface just to stop it from sticking, and we're just going to roll this out just to smooth it out all the way along. Okay, then we're going to wrap it around the waist. Now hopefully this is long enough. No, it's not. Let's make it a little bit thinner. Actually, let's approach it slightly differently. Let's make it really thin. I'm wondering if, with some people being unhappy with the new edition, might see a bit of resurgence for heroes. I'm not actually familiar with that one. I'll have to have a look. I think they're going to make kill team veterans veteran guardsmen of the regiments that need updating, like Vostria and Talon Valhallan. I think that's the smartest way Games Workshop can be. I do agree. I would like to see that, and I think a lot of people would be really into that kind of thing. I don't see why we haven't seen those regiments, because obviously we had those regiments in miniature form for a long time. Obviously they were in metal. Okay, that's a bit better. So we're going to wrap this around here. Now, this is a little bit thinner than I actually want this sash to be, but the intention is to start off with one wrap. And I could just carry on with the wrap around, but I'm just going to trim that off first. Join that up. Now we're going to wrap this around again. I'm just going to thin this out a little bit first. You'll see why. Okay, I'm going to wrap this around again, slightly low, slightly below that one. Trim that off again. Like so. And then we can get a bit of Vaseline, press that around, and so this is basically the reason why I've done it in two lots like this is because I can kind of create more of a defined edge this way, because I can press these together and smooth it out in the middle, and it kind of creates a fold around the waist. And I'm going to start at one end and I'm going to work my way all the way around, because it's likely going to end up with some excess at one end. So I'm going to go all the way around. You can see it's starting to blend together, and it's starting to buckle up a little bit as well, so that's because I'm stretching this out as I'm going along, and so there's more green stuff than is actually required, but by the time I get around to this side, then I can chop that off. Let's press that down a little bit there. So you can see it's quite a lot more there than we need. Just going to separate those apart. So let's go this way, just to least this is a lot more successful. Now, what we want to do is we want to add kind of like a little bit of a cloth hanging down on one side, and I want the cloth to look like it's being wrapped around and then up and then tucked in. So I'm going to use this little bit of an extra bit here that I've got now. I'm just going to tease that up a little bit up here. Press this down a bit first. And there we go. We're going to make us join up to here. And then if I continue to smooth this side around, then what we should get is the appearance of the fabric starting to be kind of folded over and tucked into itself. The only trouble with doing it on this particular model is that these guys are already quite like chunky to begin with. If you compare it to the Krieg torsos, they're like really wide. I don't know why. He's actually kind of looking like the guy on what's his name? The Rancor, the guy who's kind of like the Rancor Tamer from The Return of the Jedi. If he, oh god, if he was wearing instead of having the flak armor there, he just kind of like a bare chest, then that would have worked really well. So yeah, there we go, guys. This is the stream. We're making an Imperial Guard version of the Rancor Tamer. I'm sure it's actually got an official in-world name. I don't know what it is. Where are we? Kabuski, I'm thinking about getting the core book for Kill Team, but I'm not sure if it will have everything I need to play with the factions I own. Which ones are included in it? In the actual core book, there are no factions in there. So the only factions... So you've got 3 books. You've got the core book, which contains the rules for playing Kill Team. You've got the Octarius book, which is found inside Kill Team Octarius box set, and that has the rules for the veteran guardsmen and also the commandos. And then the compendium has all the rules for all of the other factions, and that's the only place where you have like the actual Kill Team data cards. So that's what you'll need for those. How would you go about converting Necrons to look more like Terminators from movie Terminator 2? I think they lost the Terminator look, which makes me super sad. I think they kind of got very kind of hunched over. I think that's the problem. I think if you kind of adjust their position so that you maybe had them looking a little bit more upright, I think that would work quite well. I think you could get them a lot more kind of imposing by doing that, I reckon. Yeah. Where have we gone? What do you think of Maccabean Janissaries? I have already done them in the past. I use some... Actually, I have it here, look. Sometimes I have stuff to hand. So this is using parts from Liber Demonica. So the head and the legs are from Liber Demonica. The rest of the model is basically Tempestus Science stuff. So I would reckon now that we have some Krieg bodies, the only thing I'm going to say here is look at the head. It's quite large. So if we were to compare that to the Krieg torsos, it's very big. I'm not sure that would work with these particular heads. I think there are some 3D printing heads available as well, so they might be better scaled. Where are we? Regarding your very pretty vampirate stuff, will we ever see the depth guard? The idea of vampire pirate deep sea divers are cool, though I'm unsure how to make them look distinct from Blood Knights. Yeah, so this is the problem as well, because Blood Knights are mounted, so you need to do something which is straight away on foot, because depth guard are on foot. There's no point in having cavalry in the middle of the ocean. So I think one of the things I've seen suggested is Dark Eldar legs. They've got kind of like a style that you can probably use for legs, and they'd go with the torsos. Could could work nicely. Oh, the chat's gone too fast. Where were we? Where do you get scalpels from? eBay. They are just Swan Morton scalpels that I use number 3 handles, and you can see there. This is their very, very light 10A blades. So yeah, you can buy them in quite large batches on eBay. Part of me wants to get a few done that one. Oh no, I haven't. Part of me wants to get a few Necrons and bash them to look like the metal skeleton warriors that Nicole Bolas used in the War of the Spark MTG sets. I am unfamiliar with that, so I can't really comment, I'm afraid. But yeah, they'll probably look nice as metal warriors. Niels Bayer, thank you very much. Love your stuff. Thanks for inspiring my hobby. You are very welcome. Thank you for supporting me. I still stand by using some Lord of the Rings figures for conversions if you don't mind Earthel Moon shoes. I don't know what you're saying there. I don't know. I'm not sure. Some of the scaling is a little bit off in Lord of the Rings models. And maybe some of the newer stuff isn't too bad, like the stuff that was released after The Hobbit. So maybe those plastic kits are a little bit larger, a little bit better scaled. Let's get back to this anyway. So at the moment it's looking a lot more like a cummerbund. Cummerbund? Cummerbund. So I've got this little fold here, and that's okay. That's kind of like a good start, but it needs to be continued down the leg here just to make sure that we actually have that appearance of something that's wrapped around and there's a little bit of an excess. So there is actually going to be two, we need to model both ends here. And this is very similar to the old, I don't know if you remember it, the old Cadian commander, the old metal one. He used to have something very similar to this actually. He just looks really chunky still. Is that a new mat I see? This is basically, yeah, this is just kind of a clean mat that I use if I'm doing some sculpting, just because if you look at my other mat, there are lots of little bits and stuff stuck to it, so sometimes they get picked up. So if I'm doing any sculpting, quite often I'll use this mat, and I only use this mat for sculpting on. Just make it nice and easy. Malakil, is it Malakili is the Rancor Tamer's name. I should change the stream name to Kitbashing Malakili out of Cadians. It's kind of going that way. I'd love to make a Necron that was halfway through biotransference but got rejected, so it's half organic, half robot. That would work quite nice actually. It'd be interesting to do something like that. I've always been interested in doing something which was like some Necrons maybe that have been in stasis and before they kind of all became robots. So there's a few like the original biological Necrons before they became robots. That'd be quite interesting. Okay, so let's get back to this. Let's roll out a little bit more green stuff. And I think if I cut that in half, that should be perfect. Gruski, I see. Would you need both the compendium and the core book in order to play? Yes, you would indeed. If you just wanted to play with one of the kill teams in Octarius, then you can just need the box set because all the rules are in there for those models. But yeah, if you want to use any like Space Marines or Grey Knights or Eldar or anything like that, then you need to have the compendium and the core book. That's not sticking. So the trouble is sometimes if I've got my surfaces and they've got a little bit of Vaseline on there, it can actually be quite difficult to get the models to stick, so you just need to wipe it away a little bit sometimes. Okay, first piece, and second piece on there as well. Okay, and I'm going to start at the top, and then I'm just going to blend these two together just like I did for the rest. You've got to keep pushing them together as well, because they do like to separate, especially over areas where there isn't as much to support it. So I'm going to tuck it in under here as well. Okay, let's grab the scalpel and dip that in the Vaseline again. I'm just going to trim this along just to get a flat edge. There we go. And then just blend that back together. There we go. It's looking quite nice now. So apart from kind of the hefty weight that this guy is carrying around his midriff, I think it's kind of worked quite well. It'll look better on the Krieg models because they're not as big, so you can probably get away with this a little bit more. Victor Debatis, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly there. So you can see your Nergalath army complete. Me too. I'm really kind of motivated to build an army at the moment. I think if you ever want to build an army and you haven't got the motivation to do so, then sign up for a tournament, and you kind of have to. Then you don't really have much of a choice. So yeah, crack on with that. How many Pro Acryl paints did you pick up? I'm thinking of trying them out. I got the whole range. So I've basically been using them a few times on different models. I used them on the Valhallans. I've used them on the Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth were actually the first ones I did with them, and then from what I learned from those, I then did it on the Valhallans, and they just work really nicely for the way I like to paint. I like really high pigmented paints, and you can thin them out, and they still just cover really nicely. So, yeah, I highly recommend them. A few people suggested them when I kind of did my little poll a few months ago, so I thought I'd give them a go, and yeah, really happy. Dren the Heck, what are you kitbashing right now? Just tuned in. So this is kind of like just a little bit of a prototype for some techniques that I'll be using for some, I'll actually make sure it's in the shot, some Talon Desert Raiders that I'm potentially going to be doing with the Death Corps. Doesn't necessarily mean I am going to do them, but yeah, just a little bit of an idea that I had. So I think that's kind of okay. Let's do something different now. I've got a little bit of time on the stream, so let's see. So one thing I do have plenty of on this Death Corps of Krieg set is heads. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 regular heads, and I think I got some more as well. Yeah, so we've got a head for, I think, a couple of the different specialists here. So I think one of them is like the Vox operator. One of them is, oh yes, the sergeant. You can see we've got the skull there. Might have this in the shot. So I think that's the one for the sergeant, and we've got like a Vox operator one there. So we've got 12 heads altogether. So I've got a few heads to spare, especially if I do decide to do some talent stuff. So one of the things that I wanted to try out was trying to make a head with this helmet that didn't have a gas mask. So let's grab one of these. You know, I should probably make sure I've used one of the... No, I'll be fine. Let's go. So one of the things that I want to do is to see if I could replace this whole kind of face mask here of the gas mask part and swap that out with an actual face. I know the Deathcore of Krieg don't, but what I wanted to do was to maybe use these heads for either Steel Legion, or there was another thing I was thinking about, I can't remember what it was, that had similar helmets. Oh, that's really going to wind me up. Can't remember. It was possibly one of the more obscure ones. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, so yeah, let's try that. There's something else I wanted to try just to kind of see if it would work. So let's grab a head and let's grab a. So the problem that I'm going to get here, I think, is that this is already quite a narrow face. If you look between the panels, it's going to be quite difficult to fit on properly. This is. Basically, I just want to grab the helmet itself and see if the helmet works on regular heads. Okay, I think it would do. Let's use one of the female heads just because I think I've only got 1, 2, 3. I've actually got plenty actually. Let's use this one with the eye patch. I like that one. Okay, so we're going to try and put this Krieg helmet onto a regular bare head. I don't know if I'll actually use this on any conversion, but it's worth seeing how easy it is to do, and if it works, then it's all good. Let's scroll down a little bit. Sean Connery Zombie. Sorry if you already answered this, just got here, but what are your thoughts on new rules for making a kill team for kill team? Seems like the Raptors can't be used as is at the moment. Yeah, so I have ideas of getting around it, because rather than having more individualisms, I need to kind of think more on a squad base and more of like a fire team base. So one of the ideas that I had, for example, was taking Space Wolves and then using the scouts, using the similar kind of scout idea that I used for my Raptor scouts, and making them kind of the Wolf scouts, and making a full kill team of them. So it will be more, the style of the kill team will be across the unit and maybe some individualism, but not as much in the way of actual every member is different, every member has a specialism. So there is still options. It's not as clear, obviously, for these commandos and these veteran ones. Yeah. Right, okay. This is always nerve-wracking clipping away this. So this is quite flat here, so let's remove this bit first. No going back now. And let's do a little bit of a tentative clip there. And then another one there. Okay, that worked. And then we're going to try and clip away this little bit of a faceplate here. And the trick is not to use too much pressure with the knife, because as soon as you start applying a lot of pressure, that's when you're going to slip, and that's when you're going to cut yourself. If you just apply a little bit, then you can get away with using it quite close to your fingers. Try not to cut away that bit there. That's the main struggle at the moment. And certainly everything goes quiet. Will you continue the reps in the future, or are you going to put them on ice for a while? So the only things that that aren't actually usable, well, I mean, everything is unusual on its own. I would have to expand out, so I'd have to make 3 more assault intercessors. I'd have to make 3 more of everything. The only thing that I couldn't use is the eliminators, which is annoying because I have 2 of those. But yeah, I think I'm going to hold off for a while. I reckon Space Marine kill teams will be one of the units to get a release soon, I would imagine. So we'll see. Let's cut a little bit more into there. We've got a little bit of room to do so. So let's. I think that's as much of the head removed as possible. It doesn't need to be perfect because we can kind of glue in the head and trim the head that we're going to be attaching into here. Okay, I think that's as much as I can do for now. I can come back to adjust it. So yeah, I've got basically just a helmet now, and that's just going to give me a little bit more options for conversion in the future, because there's a couple of regiments, especially some of the obscure regiments, which actually have these kind of helmets. Maybe if we remove the crest, actually that might work quite well. So let's compare this. We can see that we're going to need to do something similar to what we did with Acadian head. We're going to need to clip away the forehead. We're going to need to clip away quite a bit of this area here. So let's start there first, and then we're going to be removing probably anything past the ear. Actually, anything before the ear, I would say. And as always with these things, just make sure that you do incremental changes. You don't want to do stuff like just cut the whole back of the head off and you're like, oh, okay, I'm stuck now. You want to make small little changes, and the more you do, the more cuts you make, then the more accurate it is. If you make 2 cuts, then chances are you're going to make it too big. So just spread them out. Right, let's compare those now. Still fitting very high on the head, too far back, so we need to cut a little bit further forward. A little bit more. So I think we've got the distance in the front not too bad. We just need to cut down the height a bit more. Let's get this back. Trim down a little bit more. Let's use a file for this actually, because there is a bit of a step. I'm just going to grab my file. what animal bits rating would they give to this? Hard to say. I think at the moment this is very tricky. I think this is going to be like a 3 or 4 probably, just because of the amount of adjusting. I don't even know if I'm going to use this in any of the conversions, but it's interesting to see if it's possible. A lot of people will ask inevitably as well, can you add non-gas mask faces to Krieg heads? Starting to line up. I still think the forehead's a bit too high. This needs to fit a lot further down than it currently is. So we need to really trim this back. By extension, this needs to come back as well. Practically removing most of the head, to be honest. Even more. Since you chop the guy's face off, I guess it's a human bits rating. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, humans are animals as well. Part of the animal kingdom. Timothy Gerber Flurry. Is your painting station race higher than a regular tabletop to avoid back and neck pain? No, and I'm probably going to suffer from it massively in the future. I honestly kind of sit all crunched up like a little goblin at times. It's really not good for kind of posture, but feels comfortable at the time, so you know. I think having something a little bit higher probably would be good. I think most of the time I tend to kind of bring stuff close to my face when I remember to. When I'm filming, it's a little bit difficult because I have to be in front of the camera and I can't kind of work as close to my face as I would like to. Which means why I'm going off camera a little bit here, just to make sure I'm getting these cuts in the right places. Okay. So this is still not really. It just goes to show that how much quite small the Krieg stuff is compared to the Cadian stuff. Now I don't know if it's because the Cadian stuff is just overly sized anyway, or whether or not the Krieg stuff is a little bit more of a true scale size. It's hard to say, but getting this head to fit in to the helmet is actually proving a little trickier than I thought it would be. It's not going well. It's not going well at all. I am aware that I keep going very quiet. The trouble is when I'm using a knife on a really fiddly bit like this, it's you kind of just pour all of your concentration into this one task. Okay, it's getting a little bit closer there. We can start to see how things. Let's trim the helmet instead. Let's make some adjustments to that. It's a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to make a few more trims just to the inside of here, just to make sure that I'm giving myself the best chance of possible. Okay, slowly, ever so slowly getting there. I need to make a slight adjustment, I think, to this corner here, just to make sure that can fit inside the helmet. So, as I said earlier, when you're prototyping these kind of things, you're not even sure if what you want to do is going to work, and even if it does work, is it feasible to do on a large scale? Because some things, if I want to make a kill team, I need to make sure that, especially for a god kill team, it's something you could easily replicate across 10 models if you need to, and I need to do it for at least 5. And this isn't looking like it is easily reproducible. It's taken quite a long time just to do it for one model. So it's not really super easy to do, and I'm not 100% convinced that the result is going to be fantastic either. So yeah, head swaps are fine, but swapping the helmets onto other stuff is proving very tricky. It doesn't help that the Krieg heads are so small. Jack Mike Salpete, what model slash squad type do you want to see Primus-ified next? I quite like the idea of Devastators getting something, but I know Hellblast is supposed to be kind of like the heavy option for Primus, but I don't know, I think I quite miss things like plasma cannons and las cannons and grav cannons, things like that, the kind of the big, heavy, beefy weaponry. I'd like to see that. Or maybe like a different type of scout would be interesting too. So I'm getting very, very close here now. I feel like what I need to do is, let's see if we can see that on the camera nicely. You see that? There's like a very, very fine gap there. And I think I can shave this down a little bit more and still get away with it. I think as long as the eyes are just below that rim, I think we can do it. Ooh, it's getting very close. Getting very close indeed now. Gloam Ohm. I recently got the Citadel Skulls box as just something to have in my bits box. Any suggestions on which units benefit from a good skull dazzling? So it really depends on what you're doing. If you're doing something chaos, then pretty much anything. Like skulls on spikes, skulls on chains, anything like that works quite nicely. If you're doing something, it really depends on what you want to do with them. They're very versatile. I'd say it's one of the things that everyone should have in their bits box if you want to do any form of kit bashing. They're great for basing. They're great for, you can do head swaps with them. They're great for adding little extra details. You can cut them up and use them as decorations for like armor and vehicles, things like that. A lot of stuff you can do for them. I'd like to get a veteran intercessor kit with a bunch of unique things on them. Also, Primus Scouts will cover. Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have something like a Stern Guard veterans kit, but then a Primus version of it. It'd be pretty cool to have. Oh look, actually, it's very, very close now. I think we need to trim this down a little bit more, and it's going to go. Yeah, there's a lot of really nice kits that were released kind of late in the Space Marine cycle, like those Stern Guard, like those Vanguard veterans, and it would be nice to have something a bit more elite, a little bit more some interesting bits. I suppose the Blade Guard veterans are the closest ones, but I'd like to see more of a unit-based kind of squad-based ranged weaponry rather than being quite clearly a elite shield, like elite combat option. So yeah, a ranged version of Blade Guard is the word I'm going to call it. Ranged version of Blade Guard would be nice to see. This really isn't worth it. Oh, if only I knew sooner, but yeah. Learn from my mistakes, folks. Don't bother trying to put Krieg heads onto non-Krieg models. It just doesn't... It's not worth it. Okay. I've lost the head over there. There we go. We got it. We got it, guys. God. I think this literally took me about... how long did that take me? 20 minutes? To do one head? Will it focus? Ta-da! I'm not sure if it was worth it. It doesn't look bad. It's not. It's probably. Oh. Yeah, it's not fitting properly. Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little bit of an option. It's there as an option if you want to add some helmet variation. I think after this, though, I think I'd probably just get a third-party bit, because I reckon there's probably some exactly like this that I could use. So sometimes I've kind of not always wanted to use third-party bits, because there are a lot of third-party bits out there, but I don't always want to use them because if people want to use their models in tournaments and they want to take them to the Games Workshop store, and Games Workshop are like, oh no, you can't use them because they're third-party pieces, then I don't want people to kind of be stuck with models that they can't use where they want to use them. So try to use as many official Games Workshop parts, but every now and again I feel like you just have to just use third-party bits. This being one of them. I think there's probably some really nice heads from Victoria Miniatures. Actually, let's have a quick look to see if there is. Where's my phone? There. I'd have used a skull since they're smaller and make a true death core. Yeah, I think that actually would have worked. Let me just grab my Citadel Skulls box. Okay, let's see. You know, yeah, I think if we'd basically just kind of cut away from the jaw there, you could probably have cut away the whole of this back section and had like a really cool kind of skull version. Now that actually might be a good option for doing some sort of cultist, which was actually another idea I had. But I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to cut up another helmet again anytime soon. That was a lot of work. Let's catch up on the comments. Just during the stream, thought you had spilt loads of yellow paint there for a moment. Yeah, it does look like that. It looks like an Avalon sunset. I think that's probably the colour that it was. It's the Citadel brand. Hashtag not sponsored. You can still use a small percentage of non-GW bits as long as it's at least 75% of GW. Now that used to be the rule, and for a lot of stuff it was fine because you could basically just do a head swap and still more than 75% of the model was Games Workshop. But I'm not sure if that's the same anymore. I'm not sure if that rule is the same anymore. I recently bought a 3D printer to make kit bashing much cheaper and more accessible. Don't know, it can be too. Yeah, I've obviously used 3D printed parts on the channel before, and there is some really nice stuff out there. But again, it kind of creates almost like this divide between people who want to kit bash. Let's zoom this out a little bit, just so there we go. We can see a bit more, just so it's not as restricted, because it's very easy to just say, oh, buy this head from such and such a place, glue that on. That's nice and easy. Fair enough. It doesn't really require much in the way, like this guy that I've been sculpting on the stream. He took a lot of work, but there are heads out there. There's loads of heads that I could have used instead, and I'm still not particularly happy with this actually. So I might try it again at some point, but maybe not. But this is the thing. This is why I do prototypes, because sometimes stuff doesn't work. Sometimes stuff works really nicely, like this. Let's carry on with this actually whilst we're here. This kind of whole thing actually turns out to work quite nicely. It doesn't always have to work, but the idea is that I've learned something from it. There we go. I didn't think it, just for anyone who's joined, it's going to be really confused as to why I've just suddenly pulled out this this Vindicta with a System of Battle head on it. I didn't actually do this in the stream. This is something that I worked on a few weeks ago. Basically, Vindicta body from Dominion, and I just added a little bit of green stuff to make it like a tabard, and modified a Sisters of Battle head to look more like a regular kind of fantasy knight helmet. But yeah, like I said, this actually works really well, and I would like to do this a bit more, to feature this in a video and at some point in the future, kind of like a follow-up to my Grimdark Stormcast guy. But yeah, I think that is going to be the end of the stream now. I think we've learned a few things. First of those, not to bother cutting up Krieg heads, to stick bear heads in there. The second of which is, if you want to make some Star Wars Rancor Tamer cosplay Cadians, then you can do that quite easily with some green stuff. And yeah, I think that's kind of, sometimes these kind of things aren't always going to come out with a fantastic model. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but you've just got to push yourself. Just got to try in those things that don't always work, and if they don't, you learn stuff and you do it differently next time. So yeah, if anyone has any last minute questions to squeeze in before the end of this, then do it now, because we're gonna end it in a few minutes. So it's the last orders bell is being rung now. Fenella Druce. Oh well, it's gonna an idea of some practical heads. The Empire State Troops, I can't remember what they're called anymore, but basically the Free Guild ones for Age of Sigmar, they're really nice for those kind of heads. They have the hats, they have the kind of the beards and everything, so they're really great for like pirate crew. There was another question that I saw. The rules varies in every store. The Dublin Games Workshop lay that use third-party bits, as long as you think 6% of the mini is Games Workshop. Yeah, I think it is varied. in terms of stores, it's very much variable. I think some stores can be very, very strong opinion about it and will literally not use anything non-Games Workshop. I have been in a Games Workshop, I'm not going to say where, just in case it gets the person in trouble, where there was somebody who was basically using a bunch of Napoleonics as Imperial Guard, and they were like from Warlord Games. So yeah, it does vary between store. Would you consider converting Guard in the style of the SAS, specifically the operators seen in Rainbow Six Siege? Sorry for the repeat chat. Yeah, I think that would actually be really nice. It's kind of a continuation of the Raptor kill team, but in Guardsman form. That'd be nice to do. Nice idea. Could be work quite well. What was your first conversion, both simple and advanced? First conversion, what did I do? I think the first conversion would have been, I bought it was when the plastic Space Marine Commander came out, the first one. It was like the multi-part kit. I bought that and a box of Tactical Marines, and I basically built the Commander and then used the spare parts from the Tactical Commander to build some Veterans, and that was like the first conversion that I ever did, first Kitbash. And then I think in the future, a little bit after that, I made like some like Inquisitor and some Inquisitorial Henchmen. I did a little bit of sculpting on those, and they were terrible. They were really awful, but yeah, it worked nice. What are you working on? At the moment, nothing. In terms of the video anymore, though, this is just what I was just kind of playing around with. More generally, there is my Sylvan army. If you haven't watched the video that I put out this evening, then go check that out now. And the next project that I have involves this lady. Oops. Alara the Ever Queen. And somehow I've got to combine this box with this thing. So I think these are actually to scale on the box. Let's zoom out a little bit more so you can kind of see what I'm working with. Yeah. So the intention is to basically have Alariel sat on top instead of the two other brothers here, because this is like three brothers. So get rid of those, put Alariel on the top. That's going to be a fun conversion. That's more generalized what I'm working on. Are you ever going to tackle converting a Blood Angels kill team? I've been looking to spice up my Marines, but I'm sure I'm uneasy on how to do it. I haven't had any ideas, but I think if I went down that line, I'd probably do some sort of Black Rage penitence, some sort of thing where these guys know that they're about to be consumed by the Black Rage, so they're going on like a suicide mission deep into enemy territory, so that'll be there. Ever considered trying to make loyalist versions of different traitor characters like Abaddon or Typhus? Yes, I have. Kind of extending out some stuff that I did with the Primus Legions, but also I would like to do some Dornian Heresy stuff, so it'd be quite nice to do some loyalist versions of those. Would you make a Necron kill team more unique and less uniform? Off the top of my head, I would maybe do something which has got like a kill team which every single model has got a form of the Flayer virus, the kind of the weird like virus that the flayed ones have, but they still have it's not quite taken over and they still have their regular weaponry, so that might be an option. Have you considered working with models that are not Games Workshop? Virtual War has some fun looking models I would love to get. Yes, I do work with non-Games Workshop models. It's mainly just on the channel that I use Games Workshop stuff. I do a lot of Warlord stuff. I would like to get back into a bit more Mantic stuff for Kings of War as well, but I shall definitely check out, what did you say, Verge of War? Yeah, Verge of War, I'll have a look. Any plans for a series like your Raptor Kill Team? The Raptor Kill Team kind of been shelved for a little bit just to see what gets released in October time for Kill Team. I'm sure Games Workshop will be releasing some information soon, so we'll check that out. Do you plan on doing some more vampires? Yes, I do. I have some ideas to do a vampire captain for my pirates, so hopefully that'll be soon. And Villain Streets does a bunch of Steel options to include the skull ones. Yes, they do. I actually think I have some of those in a box behind me, so yeah. Eagle Piggle or Macapaka, I think it's going to be Eagle Piggle for me. I think it's a nice colour blue. What do you think are the hardest army to convert? Well, it depends really. If you mean thematically, Tyranids are a little bit tricky because they're all kind of organic and they all kind of just operate at whatever's the peak efficiency. There are quite a lot of options there to make maybe, like how I did with my Biovore. So yeah, not so much as easy to put that kind of personalized spin on things, but quite good for biological conversions using green stuff, things like that. Recommendation on putty for tidying up arm joints. You can either use green stuff or you can use something which I've used a few times in videos, which is this stuff here. This is perfect plastic putty, and basically this is like a really thick toothpaste, and I think it's dried up in the nozzle a little bit there, but it's like a really thick kind of toothpaste, and you can use that quite nicely for filling in gaps. It's smoothed out with water, so that's quite good for filling in arm gaps if you don't want to use green stuff. I've used it quite a lot for gap filling. Is it dry time with peanut? Pretty much is. I'm just constantly asking questions. I'm trying to get all the questions in whilst I'm in the last few minutes before I go. I know you've done Night Lord conversion guide, but I think a Night Lord kill team will be an awesome video. Ave Dominus Nox, love your vid speed. Thank you very much. Yeah, a Night Lord kill team would work really well, just for the fact they are kind of these like terror troops. They could send in a unit in behind enemy lines to kind of sow terror behind them. Pretty cool. Would you consider kitbashing a chaplain dreadnought? Possibly. I have never done a dreadnought conversion, but there's always time for doing one. Lots of cool like bones and baroque styling on there. That would be pretty cool. I'm trying to make a Space Marine chapter themed around 1700s pirates. Can't find any good bits, ideas. Ooh. Oh, that's quite a difficult one, really, because pirates are typically kind of... What I would do is I would have a look. I think there might be some bits out there which are a little bit like conquistador styles. I think there's enough of a crossover between pirates and kind of conquistadors and that kind of that time period. So have a look. I think maybe Puppets will do something similar, so check those out. A thought I had for Necron Flayed ones is take parts from the Flare kit and bash with a variety of other Necron models to make somewhat of a very unique Necrons that have succumbed to the virus. Yes, perfect. Pretty much exactly what I had in mind for this kind of Flare virus infected unit. Are you working on anything with Kirioth? You both working on similar armies? I'm not working with anything directly, but I mean we've been talking about. We're both attending the Facehammer tournament, Facehammer GT in September. So we're going to be meeting up there. So yeah, maybe if we can kind of come up with something to work on there, then never say never. Would you try converting plastic Kasrkin from standard Cadians? Possibly. It shouldn't be too difficult if you use some green stuff and you use a similar technique to what I used in the Valhallans, where I added the extra armor plate to the front. You could maybe make some armor plates that way. Also, Pete, I forgot to ask, are you going to tackle the new Blood Angel and Dark Angel successors like you did the Salamander ones? I did want to do those, but I didn't get as much of kind of like a cool, like, oh yeah, some really nice, interesting vibes. I feel like they dropped the ball a little bit with the new ones, but yeah, maybe I could do something in the future. People always ask for Flesh Terrors, but yeah, we could maybe do something in the future. Pete, shows around your hobby room. I would do, but because in preparation of the stream, I've literally just kind of got boxes everywhere, just in case I needed to grab them. So it's not really in any. I mean, I can quickly show you how messy my desk is at the moment. You can see all the stuff that I've got just kind of to the side, just in terms of prepping stuff. But yeah, that's it. What about Redemptor Librarian Dread? That would be awesome. I actually did do one. I never did a tutorial for it, but I did a Dreadnought Librarian conversion for 1,000 Suns, I think it was. It was really pretty cool. Have you considered using your other 5 Kriegers and taking inspiration from the French army in 1914? It's what I'm planning on doing with mine, Red Trasnol. That actually was something I had in mind originally, and it was actually kind of where I was heading with trying to get these guys' heads still. So maybe if I can find some Adrian helmets, I might actually make some... You know what, actually I do have an idea of possibly where to get some of those soon. Maybe, we'll see. Would you consider converting old Dark Eldar characters? Possibly. I don't really do much in the way of Eldar, but yeah, maybe in the future. Really like your Space Skaven video. Any advice on where to get those Skaven gas mask heads? So, the if you don't mind doing third-party stuff, then the Veermin from Mantic Games is probably one of the really good places to check out. So yeah, maybe check those out in the future. Other than that, it's probably hard to get a large number of them. So yeah. Sci-Fi Guy getting the Wargame Atlantic French set. Yeah, so that's probably going to be the best option for those kind of, for the heads. I think it's spelled Grognars, but it's like Grenard or something, Grenier or something in French. They've got some kind of Adrian helmets with gas masks. They could work as well. But I think the Wargames Atlantic historical stuff is slightly smaller scale, so their Deathfield's range is a little bit chunkier, works really well with like Cadians and things like that, but these Krieg seem to be a little bit slimmer, so I reckon some of the Wargames Atlantic heads would work quite nicely with those. So yeah, once I get my hands on those, I might actually give it a go. I'm running a Guardsman team where the Flamer spew green flame. My husband Red Cals. Any advice so you could present that without doing something as daunting as modelling flame? Whew. The only thing you could do is if you had some sort of like clear tank. That's the only thing you could do, is maybe have a glowing, or actually you could have like the vents in the front glowing green, so it's like it's just kind of getting ready to spew the flame out. It's quite difficult otherwise, unless you can actually buy, I think, flames which are like come as a component, and you could probably stick that in. But yeah, I think that brings us to the end. I can probably just keep answering questions for the next half an hour, but I need to draw the line somewhere. So thank you very much for everyone who has joined me this evening. Thank you very much to everyone who has donated. I massively appreciate all of your support. If you're on Patreon, thank you. If you use Buy Me a Coffee, thank you. Even if you just use my affiliates links, then everything is massively appreciated. If you don't do any of those and you just watch the video and you like and you subscribe, then that massively helps too. So thank you very much. And we will be doing more of these live streams in the future, I promise. I will not leave it 6 months before I do the next one. We just need to have some good ideas. So yeah, thank you very much. And I will see you all in the future.